I feel like this is the fourth quarter, right? I know what I want to do for the next 15 years now. And to build this clubhouse, to make it the most robust, most fun, dynamic place for teenagers with no barriers. So all donor sponsored, no insurance and stuff like that, right? The only requirement to come to the clubhouse is, do you like pizza?
Connect with us on the Emotion Wellness Podcast for a transformative journey of human connection. Witness personal stories, improve your mental health education, and acquire valuable resources for optimizing your well-being. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.
Welcome to the Emotion Wellness Podcast. My name is Jason Turner, and as always, well, not always, but as usual, I'm here with my boy, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, man. Well, the cool thing is last week I got to interview you, and that's out today. Make sure everyone cops that one. Today, it's out. I interviewed Jason. But today's a very special day because we have, well, one, we got Lars back. We got Lars all the way back from Arizona. Let's go. Another Paisan over there. He's on the ones and twos. But even more importantly, because I have men in the room today that I love. I got you, who's my fucking brother, and I got my other brother here. I got Eddie Fischer, all the way from Sayreville, New Jersey. Now he's a transplant up in Northlake, Texas. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Frankie Five Angels.
That's what he calls me.
Yes. I love you too, and I'm so grateful to be here with you and Jason. Thank you for having me on the show, and wow.
The reality of this room is that I know, like, you guys would bond because everybody here is about one thing and one thing only. It's truly about making a difference in service.
Yes.
You know, that's like it's not about anything else. It's only about truly making a difference in people that are suffering with mental health and substance misuse and their families. And that's why I love everybody in this room, because we're all about mission, you know. And I want to get into that, but I really want to get into first, Eddie, like I don't know everything about you. You grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey.
I did.
You know, but like, what was that like? You know, what led you down the path that you did? Like, what was it that shaped you as a child and then led you in the path of where you are now into recovery and whatnot?
That's a great question. Yeah. And, you know, I do want to say today is National Giving Day. So what a beautiful day to get together with you all. Givers gain, takers lose.
That's right.
Something I learned. I mean, it's very, very important mantra in my life. Sayreville, New Jersey. You know, I was born in the summer of '69, just like the Bryan Adams song.
Oh, get out of here.
You know, wild time in history, right? My dad did a tour and a half in Nam. You know, that my mom and dad are high school sweethearts. They still live in Sayreville.
I just saw the one online.
Yeah. I mean, they just celebrated 57 years of marriage.
Amazing.
You know, and it's been one heck of a journey. You know, Sayreville was a, Polish-Irish blue-collar town.
My type of town.
I mean,
pierogies and meatballs.
Pierogies and meatballs. and you know what?
So good.
That is the perfect analogy, because my dad, my grandmother made the best pierogies, and my mother's mother, who just passed away, 100 years old. My Italian grandmother made incredible meatballs, and she worked in my Uncle Rocky's pizza place in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and my mom would have my birthday parties there, and I would go in the back, and do a deep dive into the fresh mozzarella, and I was surrounded by characters.
Of course,
became one.
Right.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I had a walk that changed my life. I'd get up and I'd walk to school, and because in these Polish towns, right, I walked, and my aunt, my Chuchi, right? Chuchi is aunt in Polish, right? So I'd stop in and say hello, and the next door neighbor, and then my grandparents, and I would take this walk, and that's how I learned how to talk to people, and stop. And I was the oldest. And my parents, interesting enough, right, we're the ones that stayed home. Some of my aunts and uncles, they moved about an hour away. So being the oldest grandson too, like I was around all the time, exposed to just about everything, and that shaped me a lot. I saw a lot. It's wonderful to be at this stage in life because even though some of the things that were horrific, some of the things that were beneficial, you get to a place where you're grateful for it all.
Yeah, right?
Trauma becomes a superpower. Right? Resilience and grit was being built. Would you like that for your own kid on some of those things? Probably not. But I'm grateful for it all because in the spot I'm in today, it's given me a lot of tools in the tool chest. So, but, growing up in that, right, the guys worked hard. Everybody drank. I mean, beers were always flowing at every event. It could be the birthdays, the anniversaries, Christmas, Easter. It didn't matter. Groundhog Day.
Right.
I mean, backyard parties. And so one of the ironies, though, in that growing up, I really didn't like what alcohol did to the people that I loved. I didn't like what it did to them, right? I did grow up with some fear of that. Like, I can tell that things were wrong. I think, when you grow up in these environments, sometimes your emotional intelligence, like you as a kid, you really don't know how to explain it, but something's not right all the time,
you feel
right?
the vibe.
You definitely, feel that. But I became what I hated the most. It's the biggest irony in my life. Which self-sabotage comes kind of into that as well. But, I was more of a mama's boy, growing up. My dad worked shift work. He's a union guy. He worked 41 years at one company, incredible discipline. But I spent a lot of time with my grandmothers and grandparents and my mom. And, just growing up in that environment. But I wanted the in with the guys. I really yearned for that. My grandfathers and my dad, and eventually that in was drinking. And I took it to another level, ended up, but took me down a long path. But, it's interesting. I've thought a lot about this compromise. I started compromising myself at a very young age. 13, I had my first drink, right? Some things happened, like respect your elders was something that I was raised with, and it was, I'll use your term, non-negotiable, right? Respect your elders. And a lot of the elders in my life were, not really worth that respect. But, being an impressionable kid and wanting, to, do as I say, not as I do. That was another term that I learned a lot about. I had an incident that happened. Saturdays were great. Basketball practice. This was like in the fifth grade. I had my basketball practice in the morning, and then I was in bowling leagues, and I loved bowling on Saturday because then after bowling, I go home and watch it. Like, it was really popular, in the very early 80s. But I was always a very trustworthy kid. Like, I always respected my elders, said hello to people. And I had an incident where the guy that worked at the bowling alley, I would always say hello to. And, he said, "Hey, I got it was just an odd week." He says, "Come up to the office and, I got to show you something." And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. The guy that works at the bowling alley. So I went up and he started like drawing pictures, like to get me closer. And he grabbed me by my belt loop. And I was really a skinny kid, like, and he grabbed me by my belt loop and he like put me over his knee, and I was like, what just happened here? And I kicked my way out of it. And I can still to this day see my feet running down the stairs and busting the door open. And but I never told anybody. I never told anybody that story until I got sober. And the shame and the guilt I buried. I just went to bowling, and I always thought, like, why did that happen to me? Like, what made me like be picked like that?
Right.
And it started like this holding on to things and not sharing about what was going on in my life, and holding that guilt and that shame for many, many years. And it really didn't serve me on that, you know. Didn't serve me at all. It was very painful, you know, to go through something like that. And then you think about, my gosh, like, you know, I was in the 5th grade when that happened, you know. And it's kind of interesting because that bowling alley was torn down in East Brunswick. And I don't know, it's kind of like that Forrest Gump moment, you know, like when Jenny, when Forrest, you know, crushed the house for Jenny, you know. And so it was just an interesting time. But, you know, sports were a big thread. Pizza was a big thread. And faith was a big thread. And all that came, you know, with all of it, the good, the bad, the indifferent, you know.
Wow. I never knew all that, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, man. Yeah, people need to hear these stories.
Yes, they do.
So let me ask you this then, Eddie. Like, so that must have stuck with you, and that led towards you getting down a path of, I would assume, the path that you chose. Well, not chose, that chose you through the trauma of drinking and drugs, right?
Yes. You know, it's interesting with drinking. Beer was my gateway drug.
Right.
Beer was always, because it was just beer. It was the thread, just drink beer. Don't touch the hard stuff, right? And I quickly found out that a couple of beers were never enough. I mean, that term, you know, one is too many and 1,000's never enough. Like, it was just in like, I enjoyed the journey. Like, we started, right, with the waiting in front of the liquor store for someone to buy us beer, and that was a whole adventure. And, you know, starting to do those things, and things, you know, there was some things that went wrong very quickly, you know, in my teenage years. But I thought it was normal. I thought this was the rite of passage, right? This is what you're supposed to do. Drink, eventually go to the local bars. I mean, Sayreville had a bar, you know, a lot of basement bars, and, you know, a lot of stuff. I mean, my grandparents all had bars in their basements. You know, it was that type of environment.
I get it.
You know, and I would start doing whiskey shots, you know, my grandfather's bar, and ring the little bell, and, you know.
So when did it really take off and become a problem?
You know, I would say it really became a problem in high school for me.
Yeah.
It really did. You know, I was a very good baseball player. I was a great shortstop. I was supposed to be the next Derek Jeter. You know? And that's what all I wanted to do was play baseball, and I wanted to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. You know, I mean, that was my life. But, you know, boy, you know, you think back, right? Like, I wasn't willing to do those things that Derek Jeter did. The discipline, right? I had a lot of trouble with emotional irregulation. You know, I would pop off, and I really didn't understand that. Like, why do I lose control and then it just steamrolls? Like,
I used to be like that.
I mean, it just got away from me, and that was at a very, very young age. To think now that the trauma that was in my life, right? And how, like, that manifested into anger. And then when I drank and I was around family, you know, family is an interesting dynamic. When there's a lot of alcohol, things go wrong very quickly. Like there's always that spot in the night that sometimes things went really wrong.
I understand that.
Right?
Yeah.
And to witness all of that as a kid, there was a lot of stuff that happened
Waking up in the middle of the night.
in my teenage years, seeing the arguments, seeing my aunt and my grandfather go at it. And because I was the oldest and always around, I got exposed to stuff that a young kid shouldn't really, you know, shouldn't be exposed to. So my teenage years really led to, it was the catapult for a journey of destruction, of self-sabotage and destruction.
Sounds familiar.
All right.
And then how long did that last, Eddie?
It lasted until I got sober in 2006. So I was 36 years old. Drinking and, you know, drugs became part of the story. You know, I smoked weed in high school and in my 20s. I actually, you know, gosh, you know, you think about some of the stuff. When I was 19 years old, I took my first trip to California. And that must have been like 1991. And I went out there and drank Corona for the first time. I was like, wow, this is pretty, you know, I'm living that California thing. And then there was like a line of something. And the guy's like, well, you know, just, you know, there's like a Bic pen, an empty Bic pen thing. And he's like, yeah, you know, you want to hit that. And I was like, oh, and it was crystal meth. But they called it crystal then, and it wasn't even on the East Coast. And I was up for 4 days straight. Gosh, I even brought it home. I mean, you know, it was weird. Like, I was like, got that feeling, though, of staying up and being wired. Like, I liked it. But you couldn't get it in Jersey, which was a really good thing. I went back to my drinking and really drank myself silly through my 20s. But it cost me a baseball career. It cost me studying, the disciplines that you need to do. And back then, right, like either you went to school or you went and worked in the plant or bounced around.
Yeah,
I bounced around job to job to job. You know, I had all these aspirations to go away to school, to get out of Jersey, to go play baseball. But my studies weren't, you know, my grades weren't there. And back then you had to have the grades. You had to have I wasn't a good test taker. You know, the SATs mattered. I mean, now you could go to school anywhere. It doesn't matter if you write a check. But, you know, back then you had to have certain SAT scores. And, you know, that shame and the guilt came up for me constantly. And the people you have in your life really matter. And everywhere I turned, when I look back, it seemed like everybody was drinking. Even the coaches in my life. Like, there were very, very few people that I look back that may have been like a safe harbor. That's my version of it, right? But from growing up in some volatile situations, you kind of learn like that sixth sense, or,
of course,
you know, that feeling like, you know, something's off here. And, you know, even in grammar school, I went to Catholic grammar school. I could remember serving like 6:45 mass, and there would be this one priest that would always come in angry, upset, and he smelt like aftershave so bad, let alone to find out it was to cover up the smell of the booze, which was validated to me at later in life. So, you know, like I always knew something was off, and I was always around it. Then I became it, you know? So it's interesting, everybody's battles, what they're all going through.
Of course.
What you see, what you become, and then what do you do with it?
Right.
And I'm just so grateful that at the age of 36, I already went to treatment. I went to the Betty Ford Center. It cost me, at the age 30, I did my first line of cocaine. And within 5 years, I was down to my knees. I left Jersey, moved to Scottsdale, and I caught a bad break. Met a drug dealer who I liked, and he liked guys from the East Coast because we keep our mouth shut. And first time in my life I had a connection to get what I wanted. I usually depended on, like, if somebody had it, I join in. But I had that ego or that false self of, like, wow, like, I got a guy, which we grew up with. I got a guy, right? That was the wrong guy. So 5 years cost me a banking. I was, a private mortgage banker, moved from New Jersey to Arizona, really worked hard and really did well. But eventually it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
And I got worse after treatment because I wasn't sold on, I knew cocaine was a problem in my life, but I thought I could still drink. Like, I wasn't sold. I thought that was the issue. And even in treatment, it was interesting to get challenged because I was so programmed to say just beer. I kept saying that. And the therapist said, you keep saying just beer. You brought it, because the blind spots that I had, and hearing that, I was like, wow, like, it's like programmed. Like, I don't even remember saying it,
Yeah.
So, got back out of treatment and lasted about 30 days and got fired from my job. And just went on an 8.5 month run from 2005. Got married in between that to my wife of 20 years. Just celebrated 20 years. I don't know. It's more of a miracle being April 13th, 2006 is my sobriety date. So this April of 2026 will be 20 years. I don't know. It's more of a miracle, approaching 20 years of sobriety or still being married 20 years.
Yeah.
But what an incredible wife I have.
The best.
I mean, the most authentic
We love her.
woman of my life, Michelle. Yes. I'm so grateful that God put a very, very, she saved my life. She called my dealer. And
Get out of here.
yeah.
Go, Michelle. That's guy. No, I saw it in her.
She did.
could see it.
She
She'll
said
stab someone.
if he doesn't stop, he's gonna die. That's what. If he doesn't stop, he's gonna die. Leave him alone. And so I called, made the call, and he goes, "Hey, when the wife calls, you're done." I did try a couple more times, and he
didn't.
No,
Wow, a good drug dealer.
I tell you what, I had
can't even
that's
believe
another
it.
God shot for
Yeah,
me.
good
Like
for him.
Jeez. He had a conscience and
Yeah.
cut me off. He changed his number.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a hold of him no more. And quite frankly, I was very, I'm in Scottsdale. Things were very like, you worked hard, you played hard. No one really bothered you. Scottsdale was still kind of like a quiet place, then. There wasn't a lot of people out there. And I was not willing to go find another dealer.
Right.
My father said to me, hey, how'd you do this? Like, how did you,
Yeah.
And I said, well, good salesman. I am, I guess, Michelle is everything I could have ever wanted, and she's the most dynamic, authentic woman I've ever met.
I love her.
And watching her, like, do what she does, she went back, she got her bachelor's, she got her master's. She works for a great company, I mean, it's incredible now to step back and see, like, how we met. And
how long were you so how you, because you guys, seems like your marriage and your sobriety are fairly close together. How long were you together before you guys got married?
Jason's great question. We were together for 4 years before we got married. We were drinking partners, drinking buddies, but we thought what we were doing was normal, right? Until I really got away from me, right? We met in the bar where I met my dealer. And you know, it was interesting. You know, I was in there doing my Mick Jagger dance and singing, hooting and hollering like I carrying on, and she took a handful of ice and chucked it at me and told me to shut up. And I was like, I got her. I got her. I got just enough under her skin. I knew I had, that was like my in, you know. And, you know, we started dating, and bringing her back, you know, to the East Coast for the first time was wild, you know, because she grew up in Minnesota. So, you know, and then she moved in 1986 to Arizona, you know, so we went, you know, to Manhattan, and, you know, seen her coming, you know, out of Penn Station up the thing, and the world's going a million miles an hour. Like, it's just been, you know, incredible journey. Like, she saved my life. I owe her my life, you know, and even, you know, with sobriety, you know, so when I first started this 20-year journey, we had a therapeutic separation. Like, she's like, I'm getting an apartment and I'm out.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, you're going to leave me, you know? And it, you know, the best thing in my life is the humble pie, right? Get that big chunk of humble pie, chew it, and swallow it. It's been very good for my life to be humbled and to be put in my place for all the right reasons.
Of course.
Right? And I've been in certain spots where at that point it was like, wow, you know. So that 8.5 months, though, I don't know, we were separated for 8.5 months. I don't know if we'd still be together if we didn't have that, because I went and do the work and started some healing, and she did the same thing. My mouth runs and I have a sharp tongue. So it was wonderful to go to a couple meetings, come home, and yell at the wall. So I said what I had to say to the wall, talk to God, but nobody heard it, another person that I could hurt.
Right.
You know, with my, because, you know, sometimes, you know, those things, they stick.
They do.
And, you know, I'm responsible for a lot of that. So I, you know, made good on that. So, you know, but yeah, that's, our journey has been incredible. You know, 18 years I spent in Arizona, and so that's where I got sober. And, you know, I had this one episode. I got invited to a dinner on a Monday night at an old place in Scottsdale called Don and Charlie's. It was an old steakhouse. And these guys had a table there for 18 years running. And I was in the, you know, part of my life where I was saying yes to everything. Like, yes. It was, even if I didn't want to do it, I got to say yes. So I show up to this round table of guys, 32 years sober. Guy was on Normandy Beach.
Wow.
18 years sober. Another guy, I'll never forget him. His nickname was Bone Dry. And he had this laugh that I'll never forget.
It's ironic.
Right?
Bone Dry with a laugh.
With a laugh. And I sat around this table with all these guys with all this time, and they were laughing and carrying on. And then it was time to get up to go to the men's meeting on Monday night after. And I thought, wow, all these guys laughing and having a great time, and no one was drinking. Maybe I could do this. It's a real shift, you know. But I was willing to show up. I wanted to show up. I had to show up. I was desperate. You know, I was desperate. I was drowning.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to drown. I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to die from this. And I made a commitment that I would no longer hurt myself over people, places, and things any longer. Because if something went wrong in my life, I drink. If something went right in my life, I drink, right? But I harbored so much resentment. I was so scared when they said resentment is our #1 killer, because I resented everybody and everything at that point in my life, until I got challenged to pray for the people that I resented. Then I said yes, and I did that, and God like lifted this burden, this, like, you could feel your shoulders like loosening up, and Put your keys under your bed before you go to sleep. So when you wake up, you got to hit your knees to get your keys. I love all of that stuff. I couldn't stand it when I started, all these cliches and these things, but how beautiful they became as recovery evolved, and you got a little bit of healing, a little bit of time. So, yeah.
So what led you on your path of where you're at now, Eddie? Like, you were a mortgage broker. You grew up in Sayreville, trauma, addicted to alcohol and cocaine, marriage.
Yes.
What led you into the field and the path that you're on now?
Well, interesting enough, the connection, right? So I had resentment to treatment, right? So
isn't that crazy how that happens?
Then
you start your own thing when you get resentful at everybody else.
Well, I had this another beautiful experience because I was doing the work. The Betty Ford Alumni Association said we're having an alumni thing, and I was like, why would I go to that? My sponsor said, I think you should go because you're resentful to treatment. Okay, so I went. And it was the 24th, I think it was the 24th anniversary of Betty Ford. And I got exposed to the regional alumni volunteers. And I saw this community. And then I became a part of that. And that's what led to 10 years of being a regional alumni volunteer. I got plugged into something that I really thought was neat. And I started going back, and doing some different workshops that, because we were volunteers, we got privy to, which was really wonderful. I went to a week-long soul wound workshop. It really started breaking me open. Like now it's like, let's peel these onion layers, right? So that started building what would look like, what's next, because I cashed in my 401k and went on a journey. Like I knew they were going to bury me with it if I didn't get it. So what would it matter? So I just dove into recovery for 2 years straight. Like I didn't work. I just, some of that stuff may have had a ripple effect later and caused me some things, but I feel like it was all worth it, putting in that body of work and building a foundation
for yourself.
Because if you build that foundation on sand, right, when it rains, it all falls apart.
Absolutely.
And funny enough, 3 years sober, I started a custom clothing business, and I opened my doors in October of 2009, when everything crashed, and I lost everything, like in sobriety. Right? But taking a drink or a drug was not an option because I had been far enough away from my last drink and drug, which I'll actually never forget. My forgetter will never forget that horror of hearing voices and the shadow people and, being locked up in a bathroom. It's like I went from the life of the party to a bathroom. So that journey, of saying yes over 2 years, really took me on a journey of what am I going to do next, right? So like you said, Frank, I went back to church after we lost everything. We left Scottsdale, we went to Glendale, went back to church, got plugged in, right? I was kind of like interested in a relationship, not religion, and found a place where we could do that. My wife and I, we got baptized together. It was a really nice, beautiful time of discovery. And what happened was a few years later, I was asked to help out a young man that was struggling, and it led to 5 years of crisis work in Phoenix. Going on the streets, taking calls, doing 12-step calls, doing some things that were more than 12-step calls, learning about what's kind of going on. When the opioid crisis hit, I found myself in incredible situations Like, wow, what God was doing, because I wasn't doing it. I was just a vessel, being of service, show up, share, and do our very best to get somebody to the help that they need. You know, because some of the kids were really needed to get into detox. And so I spent 5 years doing that. And gosh, it wore me out. I was exhausted after those 5 years of crisis work, right? So, interesting enough, I took a break and went on a mission trip to rural Pennsylvania and learned a lot. Like, you know, there are more prescriptions in town than people, right? Like seeing what was going on in rural America, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, some of those areas, right?
Pill mills.
Learned a lot. Made an attempt to do something, didn't work out, you know. Ended up going back to Arizona. I had a couple visitors while I was up in Pennsylvania, and one happened to be one of my dearest, closest friends, Randy Boyd, Captain Courageous. He came up and he said, "Hey, Eddie, I want to ride my bicycle from California to the East Coast for my nonprofit, and I want to talk about something very important to me." His nonprofit talked about the sexual abuse of boys and men. And he says, "If I put it together, you know, would you help me?" And I says, "Well, listen, I'm in a season in my life, Randy. If you put it together, I'll drive the truck." I got the call. He goes, "I put it together." So I flew, it was like June 26th, the summer of 2017. I got in the truck and he started pedaling. And for 40 days and 40 nights, we went across the country.
Amazing.
And what God did with us two ragamuffins on that trip, I'll never forget. And it was interesting because I was gone for another 8.5 months, like in the beginning of my sobriety journey when my wife and I had that therapeutic separation, right? So I was gone again. And so I got guidance, you know, 11-step guidance, Holy Spirit, you know, but 11-step guidance, I learned a lot from Wally P. Wally P introduced me to a 11-step guidance meeting. I really wish there was more of that going on. Some of those old school, you know, meeting, you know, types are beautiful. And the guidance I got is go home to your wife and say yes to whatever she wants. So after that beautiful trip with Randy, I got back to Arizona. And the first thing Michelle said to me is, "You want to go camping and hiking?" And I'm like, "Oh, guys from Jersey don't go camping. Usually a trip out to a campsite's your last ride." Right? You know, we don't do that stuff, you know. So, but yes, I said yes, right? Once again, saying yes, right? So we went up Tom Thumb, the other side, and North Scottsdale, and I couldn't. I was like, I gotta stop. I'm so out of shape. And so she was very graceful because I was making the attempt, but I asked for help. I was like, I don't. So came back down, kept going, kept training. She's got me up on the hill. So we started. We reconnected our marriage, and we reconnected with God in the mountains of Scottsdale.
Fucking A.
I mean, so it became this Sunday ritual where what a team building exercise. We go and hike.
I know, you guys hike.
Now she's got me doing 8 miles, and now she's like, "You're going to put the bag on."
Yeah.
All right, put some rocks in it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go, you know. I think of
You were walking
the
and I
Rocky song, you know, ding, ding, right? I play that all
You
the
were
time.
sending me videos in the hospital, you hiking.
Yes.
5
Right?
miles. I was doing 5 miles, you were doing 5 miles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, if you're going to do 5 miles, I better do 5 miles. I ain't got no excuses, right? You're an incredible inspiration for that. And so I'm hiking with her, and I'm doing all of this stuff. Now, when we're done with the hiking, we're going to make a pizza together. So we'd stop, you know, there was this one grocery store, Bash's, right? Some of the Bash's from a long time, like they had some like New York ladies working in the in the deli or whatever. So they would shred the fresh mutts for me, and they had pizza dough they'd sell me, and Michelle and I would go home and make a pizza together. So we hike, make a pizza.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the only way she can get me up the hill is like, what pizza are we going to make? You know, so I talk my way. So it led to this, my wife saying, I'm going to, would you like to go with me to hike the Catalina Island Trail? Yes. Got to say yes. So my wife does all this research, and she's like, we get there, you know, got the bags on, and we're like, okay, you know, you're in Catalina Island. And she's like, we're going to go the old way. Okay, yes, I'm following her. Here we go. Well, 16 miles later,
Wow.
we make it to Blackjack, which was the first, and I'm out of my mind. I was not ready for 16 miles. The old way, like it was like 7 miles to the point where we really should have came up where it would have been a 7-mile hike. So it added like, but I was pushing myself. I was crying. I think I made 3 confessions. It was all pouring out of me. And we got to Blackjack, and I was like, you get the jet boil, you get the food, make the tent, I'll make the fire, you know, and I'm in there just breaking things. I didn't care what was in there, snakes or whatever. I'm just breaking wood, making a fire. The next day we get up, I had a blister under a blister. We start hiking. We run into a pack of buffalo. You know, there's buffalo on Catalina Island.
Wow.
They brought them out from the movies in like the 30s or 50s or something like that. The Wrigley family owns Catalina Island.
Oh, get out of here.
And so they used to do spring training. The Cubs would do spring
Get
training
outta
in Catalina, but they left the buffalo. So they're on these like blockers.
Buffalo.
Well, so I do too. I thought they're wild, right? So here they all, the airport, the Catalina Island Airport, we were going to because they had like great food apparently. So there they all are, and I got my walking sticks and I'm banging. I'm going, hey, you know. And I guess somebody saw this all, and they were yelling. You know, I didn't hear it. So all of a sudden, you see this group in here, right? One comes. Here comes a fake, like they gave me a warning shot. Michelle turns around, starts running. I start turning around, running. It sounded like a locomotive, but it stopped. And apparently somebody got gored the day before. Like, because these things, they don't, you know, they got them so they don't reproduce anymore. They're really angry. You know, it was like their mating season and stuff like that. So it was wild. So we go on this, and we finish 37 miles in a couple of days. And I thought, wow, like if we could do this, like we could do anything. Like if we're still married after this 37-mile trip, you know, there's nothing that could, you know, stand in our way. And, you know, Frank, like it also took us on a journey, because after all of that, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I started applying for like any job, and I couldn't get a job. And I'm like, wow, like it was another humbling, right? Went to a store, like, hey, you know, can I get, you know, just hire? Like I do old school, like show up with a resume and people look at you like that. Nobody does that anymore, right? So it's kind of like you feel like your age a little bit, like, you know, maybe things are passing me by a little bit. So, but one thing that I've always done, which I've always told my wife what we were doing. Like I always kind of been like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do. And over the course of all of these things that we've done together now, like with the hiking and everything, January 2018, there was something that said adolescent treatment. Come and work for an adolescent treatment center. So I showed it to my wife, and I said, listen, I'm not doing anything without you. Look at this. Like, this could be a fit. What do you think? She goes, you know, I think we've done everything in Arizona that we possibly can. And she wanted a change. She wanted to go on a different, she was getting her associate's degree at the time. She said, go for it. So I flew out to Texas a couple of times on my own dime, and came home with a job. And in April, we left just like on my sobriety date. we shut the door on Arizona as a beautiful chapter in our lives, and we went to Texas. So I spent 3 years in adolescent treatment, and I loved it, and I still do. Like, I love it. I love working with teenagers. Love working with the parents and the support group of teenagers. I feel like it's very, very important work that we help the kids today. You know, we can't control outcomes, but could we plant seeds that could pay off, or, you know, in the future, or could possibly a teenager, you know, steer in a different direction?
Absolutely.
Right? Sharing our experience, strength, and hope. So I spent 3 years in adolescent treatment. Then I spent 2 years in adult treatment as a chief marketing officer for a men's only facility. And then I got laid off. I got laid off in 2023. The place closed. And this thing's always been on my heart. A clubhouse for teenagers. So May 8th is my birthday. A very
sick. I went to the hospital.
Yes. I was like, where's Frank? You know? And so I started walking again. And I started walking 5 miles a day and listening to God, right?
You literally would walk 5 miles a day and send me videos of you walking.
Yes.
Like 5 angels, I'm walking 5 miles like you are in the hospital, dude.
For Frankie,
and
5
dude,
angels.
that meant so much to me. It's your interview, but I fucking love you.
I love you too.
Yeah.
You know, and to know what you were going through.
Yeah.
I don't know what, you know, I mean, you were going through a lot. And to see the cape and the walking and, you know, like you didn't surrender to anything. Well, you have surrenders.
I surrendered to God.
You surrendered to
God,
but
dying.
you were not going to lay there and
fuck no.
No, and I'm like, well, if you're doing this, I'm going to get my fat ass walking. And what God does with movement and prayer, what am I going to do? Eddie, this clubhouse has been on your heart for how long?
Movement and prayer. Movement and prayer.
Right?
Fucking A, yeah.
Let's go.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great song, Gratitude by Brandon Lake. I'm just listening to that and coming around the corner, you're looking up, you're like, oh my gosh, like, thank you, right? Let's go. What are you going to name this, Eddie, you know, nonprofit? How you doing? Because it's 3 words that have been in my life forever. You know, Jason, like these 3 words, but it wasn't kind of a slang term. It really mattered to me. Like, how you doing? Yeah. Like, how you doing? You know, great conversation comes from how you doing. You know, especially when you're with the guys and people that you love. You know, checking in on one another. How you doing? So, the How You Doing Foundation, you know, was born walking around my neighborhood, and the clubhouse for me. Right now, I've been all over the country for 2 things. Addiction and pizza.
Right? Yeah.
I have a little thing, Uncle Eddie Eats, which started actually when I went with Randy across America, because I'd go into these great places, right, and rate them, but just for fun. I met some incredible mom and pop places throughout the country, right? And food's always been a thread in my life. Pizza has. It's a big connector. Like, I have the 4 pizza places that have been influential in my life, with my dad, with my parents, with my grandparents.
I understand.
And friends.
I understand.
So people say, what are the 4 pizza places, right? Well, the first one is Pete's. And it was the first time, it was like in East Brunswick, New Jersey, Old Bridge. It was this old bar with a pizza joint in the back, and a family would make.
It's like a Lee's Tavern in Staten Island.
Bar pies.
Yeah.
The bar pie. And I was so fascinated.
All union guys.
Maybe I was like a little younger than Sonny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I could eat the whole pie, which was exciting, right? But it didn't have a big crust, right? And I loved the bar pie, right? My mom and dad would take me there. I was an only child for 7 years, too. So once again, being the oldest, and then, you know, spending all this time in those formative years with my mom and dad, right? We went a lot of places. We all grew up together, right? So the next place then was my Uncle Rocky's place in Perth Amboy. you know, and he was a character, and, you know, he'd pay us like a nickel a box to make the pizza boxes. And I'd work there with my grandmother every once in a while. I spend the whole day with her working, and she would make, you know, it's interesting, right? Back then they didn't have Stouffer's, right? But they take the day-old bread from the sandwiches and make, the place was called Pizza Rama. So my grandmother called them Ramas, put the sauce, the fresh mozzarella, right, with the oregano, and then put it on the bread, and then bake it in the oven. Right? What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So that was always a place where there was characters and stories, people coming in and out. I was fascinated with it. I loved it. Then there was Cafaro's in South River, you know, and it was the place where my dad would take me. You know, he had a 68 convertible Corvette, you know. It was like, oh, man, like, you know, we put the top down. We go to Cafaro's for a pizza. You're on top of the world, right? And just those moments, right, of going to Cafaro's, and the pie was so good. The family that made it, right? It was like home. And then they would give you these, like, coupons with points. And when we get, like, enough points, we'd get a free pizza. And it was so exciting, you know, because, you know, didn't come from royalty, you know, but a free pizza was a big deal then, right?
Absolutely.
My dad worked a lot of overtime. You know, he worked really, really hard.
I get it.
So, and then the legendary Marukas on the Seaside Boardwalk. Like, my parents would rent a house in the early 70s it started, and be on the beach all day, go back, take a shower, go up to the boardwalk where all the characters and sort of, you know, you go into this pizza place, get a root beer with crushed ice, and have a big, you know, the pizza's on the boardwalk.
I remember,
bigger than, you know, whatever. Right? And being there with my mom and dad, it was like pizza was such a thread and a connection of joy, you know, and it just, I think about it today. You could probably tell a look on my face, right? It's that, you know, it's that we do that inner child work and go back to these beautiful moments.
Yes.
And it supersedes all the other. It does. It supersedes everything else. So, you know,
it does.
Those four pizza places. So, all right, been all over the country for pizza and addiction. I always wanted to call this thing a clubhouse for teenagers because I like it. There's no stigma to clubhouse, right? For me, like I think it's really important for kids to come to a place, and so as I kept walking, just God kept revealing more about it. Then somebody revealed a nice attorney, a nonprofit attorney, and someone wrote a check, and we were able to get the 501c paperwork all started with the attorney, and just started going on a journey. And what I always felt was creating core elements. What are the core elements, right? And what are we, you know, going to serve? And to me, it was fun. Like, kids got to have fun. I want to have fun. Like, you got to have fun. And I see a lot of, you know, places that teenagers are, you know, have to go to, right? They check boxes and stuff, right? And they're not really having fun. The second was connection. Because for me, it's like whether you're introverted or extroverted, if you're having fun, you're going to connect with something or someone, right? Okay, we got the. Now, where are we going to go after connection? Originally, I had three: fun, connection, direction. I liked the rhythm of it, but somebody challenged me. And I love feedback, and being open to feedback has been something that recovery and some other things that have taught me, right? It's not criticism, it's feedback. And I was open to that because I want to see where my blind spots are today. Someone challenged me, Eddie, something's missing. So I went back to the drawing board, and it came with discovery. So I thought, wow, right? It's that curiosity, that wonderment as a kid. Like, it was very overwhelming for me as a kid. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to go work? You know, I'm going to be a union guy, baseball. You know, I went back to junior college. Right? It's just all this stuff. Like, it starts spinning out. So fun, connection, discovery, and direction are our four core elements for the How You Doin Foundation Clubhouse, right? And what it's going to serve is kids that are facing challenges with connection, mental health, and substance misuse. Because substance misuse to me is the proper term for adolescents. And 13 to 17-year-olds is who we're going to welcome. So I start mapping this out, right? I'm like, okay, what is this going to look like? And it's like, well, the clubhouse is not about me, but it is a mashup of my life and life experiences. And why not bring all the good into which now will be 5,000 square foot indoors and 5,000 square foot outdoors. And what's going in it? A state-of-the-art pizza kitchen, right? We're bringing it. I'm going to be making pies for the kids, the families. It's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know? So, and we're going to have a media podcast center, 4 rooms. Kids can create their own podcast, and we're doing a specific control room. So for the kids, like the introverted kids, maybe that don't want to get behind a mic, but they want to chop it up and edit. We're gonna, you know, it's about all of that, having a lot of fun. I think there's just something so incredible about the process of making a pizza a little bit deeper, like with teenagers, right? Like learn a little bit of patience. Let's make a 72-hour dough. Let it ferment. Let it rest. Be patient. Be calm, right? Everything's going to be okay. Trust the process, right? It's also better for your gut when a dough ferments. So,
and it's delicious. I got to get the recipe. I ain't gonna lie. It's one of the best
yeah.
pizzas. There's no better pizza than yours in Texas. I'm not gonna fuck them up.
Thank you.
I swear.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Sonny made a pie with him.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
But that's what it's like. It's the families getting together.
Sonny's big smile
making
on
a
his
pizza.
face.
You know, giving them the ability to go home and make a pizza too. Right. I've got some wonderful things for that. But it's just so exciting to be putting this together one step at a time like this, right? Moving forward. So we're going to do some bread baking in there, a little sourdough too. I started interviewing teenagers, right? Because I also feel like today, like we're talking at kids a lot. Are we really listening? Like, listen. So I started saying, like, what do you want in this clubhouse? And the quiet room was suggested. So an electronic-free zone, right? Little lavender, essential oils, maybe do some breath works in there, yoga, or maybe you just need to go in there and like decompress and ground, right? Because for the kids today, the difference, right? It's a 24-hour constant.
Yeah, we have a room like that at the center.
You do?
Yeah, we do.
I can't wait to see
It's
it.
our own podcast studio.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love everything we're doing.
It's really, really important.
You're gonna love it.
So then we're gonna have 5,000 square foot of outdoor space as well. I've waited a little bit longer. The clubhouse is going to be in Northlake, Texas. It's going to be launched in 2026 in the summer. And, you know, it's been exciting, right? We got to the $100,000 mark, then 125,000. Now we're approaching 150,000. It's just really exciting. And it's, you know, at the age, I'll be 57 in May. And it's the push that I need at this point in my life. I feel like this is the fourth quarter, right? I know what I want to do for the next 15 years now. And to build this clubhouse, to make it the most robust, most fun, dynamic place for teenagers with no barriers. So all donor sponsored, no insurance and stuff like that, right? The only requirement to come to the clubhouse is, do you like pizza? That's the only requirement. And kids need a place like this. They're you know, and we can complement a lot of different, you know, organizations, because we're going to have 6-day-a-week access. And another thing that kids requested, like, Eddie, would you stay up until midnight on Fridays and Saturdays? You know, for the 16 and a half, 17-year-olds, you know, as an alternative to maybe going to a big football party after, or something where there's a lot of trouble, a lot of drinking. And there's a lot of kids, too, that want to go out, but there's really not a place to go out to.
Right.
Right? that maybe they're not involved with sports, but they want to come make a pizza or do a podcast, or maybe we'll put we want to always stay current, but I think maybe throwing a little 80s in there, maybe a little Pac-Man or something like that, but maybe just a quiet place to do homework, maybe we want to do, but get out of the house, right? Because everybody's on the screens and, just like this isolation, especially the ripple effects from COVID and stuff like that. So,
yeah, it's changed our world. These phones have changed our world.
Yes, they have. Mm-hmm. So I think the quiet room is going to be the sleeper of it all.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm excited for it.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
The guests, like you guys are going to make incredible clubhouse guests, and master classes are going to be very important, right? Local, national, and international people coming in to visit, especially for the discovery piece. I feel like once a kid then is connected, having fun and is connected, you get that nugget like, I'm interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go. Now let's bring everybody in and pour into that kid to, foster that discovery. And what is it going to take to do that? Right? I want to be an influencer. Okay, well, it's going to, people don't realize, it's not about getting 2 likes, right? There's a lot of work that goes behind, becoming an influencer or, telling your story or becoming a YouTube sensation or whatever, right? But for me, it's like, do you want to go to college? Do you want to go into the trades? Do you want to go into the military? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to start your own company, right? And this is where my life journey going all over the place is really going to come in handy. Mm-hmm. Especially, I got pizza guys all over the country that want to come in.
Yeah. You got to get Dave Portney out there.
Yeah,
rate your pizza.
Maybe we'll.
You know him.
Maybe we'll get him.
You got to get him.
I met him. I worked at One Bite Pizza Festival every year.
Dave, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Come on, how are you doing?
Rate our pizza. I mean, there's some. It's kind of funny, right? You got to get Matthew LeBlanc to come out and say how you doing with me. It's funny. We spell it differently, but just
it's
fun.
gonna be fun. I love it, brother, and I love being part of the mission too. Sitting on the board, I really do. I love what we're doing. I love the legacy that it's gonna leave behind, and it's phenomenal, brother. It's just,
thank you for being a part of our board of directors.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you for accepting that, and I'm really grateful to have you on that team.
Mm-hmm.
It really everything matters to me. It really matters to have, people that you admire. And I think that's the one thing too, right? The people you bring into your life. What a great thing to teach teenagers.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, I wasn't always the guy you wanted to bring into the life.
I was
either,
never.
Right? I mean,
no, not for the right reasons.
But
you bring me in for the wrong.
Well, right. But you always had a job, right?
I did.
But it's like who you bring into your life, and I think that really, is such an important, so important.
So important. And who you cut out of your life is so important.
Well, and how do you do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to navigate all of that in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to. We're going to do a group a week for the boys, a group a week for the girls, and then maybe like a co-ed mashup. Get in a circle, check in. We have a clinical advisory board that we can work with our community if we need a higher level of care. But speaking of a higher level of care, there's a lot of parents spending a lot of money on treatment. So if we look at, there are 341,000 teens that go to treatment yearly, roughly. And when they get back, see, the clubhouse to me is an anchor of all things adolescence, right? Before, during, and after a problem, right? Maybe someone's starting to be curious about drinking or smoking weed, Maybe we could keep some kids out of rehab, which on the teenage perspective, I think could be very important. Because you could introduce your teen to some things if you go to a treatment center that's not doing the next right thing, sometimes teens could get worse.
Absolutely.
All right. But when you talk about getting out of treatment, the anchor in the community. How can we change the outcomes where if there's kids that we do send out to a great adolescent treatment center, to know that the treatment center knows that the clubhouse is there to serve, right? To be there, you know, to help the family during the process, after the process. But that kid has 6 days a week, because, you know, you can only do so much therapy, right? That's 1 hour a week, right? You could go to your other clubs and groups, right? But to have a constant 6 day a week place where you can drop in, get plugged in, stay, you know, make a pizza, make a podcast, you know, laugh, decompress, you know, to have that constant in the community, to me, is so important. And I've seen kids go home and within 2 weeks, the whole treatment experience is unraveled, and families have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in this. So I feel the calling to really to have something like that, because I've seen it, you know, right in front of my face over and over and over again. So why not disrupt a bit, come up with the incredible idea, put it together, and let's go.
I love it.
Right? I mean, I'm alarmed that something that really stuck with me, the second leading cause of death between 10 years old and 24 years old is suicide. The second. When I was in high school, maybe there was some like cries for help, but no one was doing.
No one was
doing that. Not like now. And
not like now, brother.
10 to 24, the second leading cause of death is suicide.
Yeah. It's foods and phones.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
That's what's changed.
So
the country.
I feel the need to step up for that generation at this point in my life. And could I do this till I'm 70? Let's see how many we could put up. But I'd like to give it away when I'm 70 to the next group of young people that could do it better, make it better, keep growing it, a real legacy. And I'll just show up and make pizzas.
Just show up. How you doing?
Show up. How you doing? Let's make a pie. This is how we started, right?
I love it. I love it.
That's great.
But another statistic I think that is important: 40% or more of teens feel persistent sadness, and the fun piece. You know, the door's got to be open for families and for teenagers to come and have some fun. You know, all that sadness, you know, the purpose. What's my purpose? Kids are asking that a lot younger than when you know, I was a paper boy. And
I just did a story work session with a 13-year-old girl, and the title of the process that we use is a 4-step process. You title it, you write it, you read it slow, and you read it with breath. And in that process comes translations. And the title of her story was "Why Am I Here?" At 13.
At 13.
The other issue that these statistics are speaking to that isn't really talked about is how we have eradicated the boredom muscle for our population, our species. So the phones have eliminated boredom. And that's where this constant reaching and inability to just set it down and like leave it. And boredom has a role in our evolutionary survival to produce creative problem solving. So now I want you to think about a generation of kids who are losing the capacity for creativity. What does that do to people? It takes away your purpose. It doesn't give you the ability to solve problems. When you're faced with distress, right, which is good for us, right? The stress can be,
yes.
What do you do with it? They're either folding, ignoring, or checking out with the phone again, or getting online, doing something, and so they don't have this piece of their system that can support them in that process.
It's a big problem. You'll
see what we do after this, and
when
how
you get to our center,
yeah.
You'll see a set of black lockers. And
yeah.
like we interview families before we make it like an application process.
Yes.
And the family, the parent and the child has to be together in the interview.
Yes.
And because what was happening is parents weren't telling kids when they'd get to the center, we're going to take their phone. And then we take their phone and now we're the assholes, right?
Yes.
And so the kid has to agree, like when I walk in the building, I turn my phone in.
Yes.
It goes in a box and you got to give yourself 3 hours of no phone.
Are you seeing a little bit of a shift in the willingness to give up the phone?
You know, I don't think so.
No?
No. A lot of the young people that we're seeing too are further advanced into the substance use.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And so the willingness isn't really there. Like they're being, you know, they buy into our process due to the movement and we have a lot of fun.
Yes.
And, you know, your idea on the clubhouse hours, like we're 6 days a week, sometimes 7. We don't run services like treatment 6 days a week, but we have weekend workouts, we have talks, we have get-togethers. It's like where do people
every day?
I wanted to eliminate the transition. So when you're done with an IOP as an adult, what happens? Well, if you're in IOP, 9 hours a week have to be filled.
Yes.
And in a different location. Well, what we did was we just made a wellness center so that when you're done with your treatment, you just switch to going in the evening. Now you just come in the morning and you use the facility and you use the plunges and you use the saunas and you're kind of hanging out. You're in class versus you're in treatment, you know. So really impressed with the way that you've thought out your model, and I'm excited that I my brain moves 1,000 miles an hour. So you were talking about your process, and I'm like, man, this is like a piece that needs to be attached to programs. It's almost like wherever you could put it in a city, but you could also just attach it to a program. It's like, this is like the next thing for a program. Like when they get done with our program, they go to a How You Doin Foundation.
Yes.
Or a clubhouse, you know. So
beautiful thing, Eddie. Amazing.
Yeah, it's
all through movement and prayer.
Movement and prayer, life experience,
But
right?
the intuition came through movement and prayer.
It did. It did. The power of prayer can never be underestimated.
did your wife ever have you hike the Grand Canyon?
I didn't know Michelle was a savage like this. I love her even more.
She's
Parmigiana
like
over here.
Parmigiana. I
call
call
it
it
Like a rim to rim? I'm surprised you guys have.
She did. I'm gonna butcher it. Have a soup pie.
Have a soup pie, yeah.
And I could tell
she
she's like
did that.
Kathy.
I have it tattooed on my
She'll
leg.
stab you right in the neck.
I didn't do that one. She did that one. She when we moved to Texas, she joined an all women's meetup group for hiking and met like a great friend through that. And they go on all these adventures. She did the postage stamp drive around in Utah. They did this 100-mile thing. And
I gotta do this. Me, you, and
Remind me
Kathy.
to tell you a story.
We all gotta do.
it.
Let's all go hiking.
I got a story for
We
you.
all gotta go hike.
I can't.
I want to
wait.
go hiking because Kathy. That's something Kathy likes to hike. She's not conditioned.
I would
to
say
do
that's
long
the thing I
hikes,
miss
but
the most about Arizona.
We got
is the-
pedernales
is
right
the
by my
access
house.
to great hiking
Yeah,
trails.
Jason told me that.
They
Jason and Lawrence have told me that.
It's when we go back quite a bit. You know, we got married in the Fountain Hills area, and there's some great. So we go back from my sobriety date, and we go on an 8-mile hike, and Michelle gives me my chip up there.
Ah, beautiful.
And it's funny because now, well, you got one, right?
I didn't get one this year. You sent me the Yankee. You didn't send me a Yankee chip.
I didn't. I got.
He
it.
said, that's the only chip I get.
And you're 14, right?
14,
I owe you
yeah,
a 14, which is Lou Pinella.
He gets me a Yankee chip
So
every year. 14.
a dear guy in my life who's got his sobriety date's Christmas Eve. He's a big Yankee fan, and he's going to have 52 years this year. So I get him a chip. We get Yankee chips.
Who's 52 in the
Boss,
Yankees?
that's one thing we keep looking up. Like what? So we'll name the chip like we're looking to get. So I'm so excited to be getting my Bucky Dent chip. Which is for all the Boston Red Sox fans, haha. I mean, the Bucky Dent chip, but like this year was Spaghetti Rigetti, Dave Rigetti, 19.
Dave Rigetti, the lefty.
But Bob, I was so excited. So the chip place that I get these done, they only go up to 50. So I had to get the Bernie Williams chip, 51 for Bob. Hey, Bob, out the,
51.
had to get a custom made, so 52. I don't even know. I look
Is there
him
a
up.
52 Yankee? I don't know.
Yeah, somebody.
It's funny you're talking about like the four, I forget what you call
Core
them.
elements?
Pillars.
Yeah.
Core elements. So what we did when I worked in Arizona with the adolescent program, we would do international trips, and we had something similar. And it was culture, adventure, service, and fun. So like each international trip would include like Europe service. So we'd build a school in like a village or whatever. We would learn about the culture. We would do adventure, and then we would have fun. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
So yeah, I love that.
Well,
So,
one of the other pieces along, I like how you have the parent and the teen come in at the same time. One thing that I really saw play out live was it's very isolating for parents when their kiddo's going through a real tough time or they have to send them somewhere. A lot of times the parents get kicked out of the friend groups. It becomes really isolating. Like,
or the kid becomes the one that they don't want their kids around because you're the influence.
Which I always, kind of like, listen,
but it's hard for the whole family.
It's hard. So we're going to actually
family.
have date nights at the clubhouse for parents, where you don't have to come in and explain your story, like go over it. This is why we're here. And I learned that because during COVID, I would host a Zoom call with parents, and it'd be like 50, at that time, because people were locked up, it'd be like 50 something parents would sign in.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot from, orchestrating and a group like that. And, you just hear people's pain. But I also heard a lot like, we don't want to revisit all of this constantly. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's places for it. And then there's places where people need a reprieve and just come in and let's make a pizza or hear an author, I go to the International Pizza Festival in Las Vegas every year. The first year I went was right after I got laid off. So I went to my first non-addiction conference in I don't know how many years, and it was pizza. Jason, it was like the best time I ever had because it wasn't like, the same, right? It was like a freedom and a fun to it for me and a new adventure. So what I decided to do was Shark Tank the idea of the How You Doin Foundation Clubhouse and start talking to the pizza guys and talking to vendors about what we were doing and what we would possibly even, would they be interested in sponsoring? Because I wanted to know where I wasn't being clear and I wanted to know my blind spots. So as the years have evolved with all my pizza pals, as my wife calls, as I go all over the country, they're like, we want to help with this. So we just launched our mobile pizza mission. We raised about $6,500 and we bought 4 of these Gosney portable ovens that are orange.
Yeah.
Tom Gosney, who I met at the Pizza Fest in Vegas last year, started building ovens in his first year of sobriety and now has 18 years clean and has built this massive company.
Oh, wow.
What a great story, right? The orange oven, they just so happened to do a limited edition oven. It like heats up in 15 minutes with propane and it cools in 20. Like you could put them in these great bags. We bought 4 of them. This oven, this special edition orange oven, happened to be done with Chef Matty Matheson, who is on The Bear. He's really funny on social media. He's a chef. And I think he's 12 years clean.
Oh, wow.
So that's another hope and prayer is, getting these guys to come in and share their story and cook on the ovens. And, you just really start building. But so many of my pizza pals over the years have heard me talking about this. And every year I go back and I say, we raised this amount of money. Here's where we're at. Well, when we launched the mobile mission, we got a huge tent, a big orange tent and the ovens, and we set it up in our backyard, and it was a celebration for everybody has supported us in raising the money for that. And I wanted everybody to come and have pizza. And so, a dear friend says, I'm in, sent Baccio cheese, right? Mike. I've been talking with him for 3 years, and he's like, yeah, you can tell when people are like, wow, I like, this is something we would like. He sent 2 cases of mozzarella for the party, right? Ignic is a company out of Washington. I send emails, right? If you don't ask, right, you don't get.
Yeah.
So I send an email. This is what we're doing. They send this beautiful email back. We're going to send you 6 propane tanks in the sleeves, right? Gosney and Ace Hardware came to the table, gave us a big discount. The dough, I get dough balls, New York dough balls also that are frozen because I don't have the capacity because we did a 100 dough ball event. So I don't have a mixer for all of that, right? They chipped in. Like everybody is, wants to help, and the pizza kitchen will be fun, right? I'm going to ask for, who wants to donate a deck oven, so we can make, just like pizzas like home. And, the guys that are going to come in and do the recipes and everything. So the one thing, pizza, I guess why I love it so much is because they're like salt of the earth people. They're like so community. They've been doing it generations. I have a dear friend in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Al Santillo. Best Dave Portnoy rating, his review is one of the funniest things you'll ever see. You got to watch it. It's like 5 years old. Well, this is the other thing, right? Like he popped up on my thread. And, like pizza places like now, right? People travel all over. Like when I was growing up, you went to your neighborhood place. You didn't really venture out. So South River was next to Sayreville. We went to Cafaros. That was it. So Al pops up on my feed and he goes, I friended him. I get a message on Messenger. Hey, Ed, do I know you? Typical, right? I said, Al, I saw your review. I live in Texas, but I'm a Jersey boy, and I'm going to see my parents. I want to come see the oven. His oven was over 100 years old, 3rd-generation pizza maker. Like, I love that stuff. And so we end up talking. He calls me, like, on the messenger, and he goes, hey, I'm in Dallas. By chance, you want to make pies? So I said, well, come over Tuesday, 6 o'clock. He knocks on my door Tuesday, 6 o'clock. We stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning making pies, making dough. And, here's the guy on the review. You just say hello, and all of a sudden what God does with it, right?
Yeah.
And we became, he's such a dear friend, and he works so hard. It's incredible. He's a pizza savant. What he has going on in the oven, he has it all by numbers and names and years. And he's got 20 pies in the oven, and he knows which ones to cook for how long. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable, right? So we started going on these summer adventures looking for ovens that are over 100 years old and going. And I love that mentality, work hard, put out a great product. There's guys that, it matters. Mm-hmm. Everything matters to them. Mm-hmm. It's more than a pizza. Mm-hmm. It's a way of life. Mm-hmm. So that's what, we're going to bring into that clubhouse for the kids,
I love it, Eddie.
So exciting.
I love it. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Where could everybody find you? We know what the mission is. I usually ask everybody what's next. I mean, obviously what's next is this. We spoke about it.
Yes.
How you doing foundation, getting the clubhouse built. But where could everybody find you? How could people donate? Let's tell the listeners.
Yes. Well, just like the hat.org.
Over here, you're in. Yeah.
Oh.
Boom.
You just gotta look straight ahead. Bud.
Yes. Okay. So just like the hat.org. Howyoudouin.org. You go to that and you'll see the donation page. You could donate to the clubhouse. Our goal is to raise $500,000 by the time we walk in. Okay, that's in the immediate plan. So you can find us on there. You can find us at How You Doin Foundation on Instagram and on Facebook and LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn a lot. You connect with wonderful professionals and corporations and stuff like that on there. So you could also find me at Uncle Eddie Eats. UncleEddieEats.com is where you can find all your merch, and that all goes to the foundation. All the proceeds from that go. And Uncle Eddie Eats is on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. And Eddie Fischer, Fischer. You can find me on all the platforms on there. And follow us, like us, send me a message if you want to know more, a little bit more in depth. If you like to get involved, as a donor, as a sponsor. If we've connected in some way that you're really interested, let's talk. I'm very reachable and very accessible and out there constantly. So
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Make sure everybody likes and subscribes. Follow us on Instagram at emotion.wellness.podcast. Follow us on Instagram at emotion.wellness.therapy, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple to our podcast. It's the Emotion Wellness Podcast. Follow me and follow my boy Jason Turner at Emotion Guy, at Frank Parisi 2011. Thank you, everybody. I hope this inspired some of you. Let's keep going.
Thank you for connecting with us on today's episode of the Emotion Podcast, where we discuss all things mental health. Connect every week as we explore incredibly intimate stories of persistence and hope. Delve into mental health education and explore valuable resources. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.